Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It's Delilah. Coming on behalf of Delilah's Downloads. This is a lovely Wednesday morning on the shores of Oahu. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's really kind of interesting. I did a piece of this reporting already on my Delilah's Downloads page, and it was interrupted. So now I'm doing it again. I don't think anything happens coincidentally. So I'm going to forge forward from here. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Delilah's Downloads off the shore of Oahu. You guys can see in the background. Coming with the message of caution about unbelief. Coming with the message of caution about unbelief and comfort. So the word that kind of came to me this morning was really out of the book of Numbers. And it was pretty much where, if you're not familiar with the Israelites, God has brought the Israelites to the doorsteps of the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey. And Moses and Aaron have sent in some spies. Moses and Aaron have sent in some spies to kind of check out the land. Spies have come back to say, yeah, this is the land. This is the land of milk and honey that God promised us way back in Exodus. Right. But in this land, there seem to be some giants. Right. And the Israelites are like fearful because these giants are there. And they're like, how can we overcome these giants? We're grasshoppers in their eyes and in our eyes as well. They saw themselves as being small. They saw themselves as being small. So the verse that really stuck out to me was in the passage that stuck out to me was in Numbers 14:3-4. And it says, why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall on the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better if we were to go back to Egypt? We should choose a leader and go back. So when I read through this, it really stuck out to me that sometimes, when God is calling us to a place, right? When God is calling us to our inheritance, the land of milk and honey, the things before us, we may have to tackle some things in order to really be able to take hold of our inheritance. And some of those things that may come up for us may be, spirits of fear, greed, pride, things that we've dealt with historically that we have to overcome. We have to overcome with the grace of God in order to get to the level where God is calling us to be. So the Israelites came up on this door at Canaan, this step at Canaan, and they became fearful. And we all know that the word says that fear is not of God, right? That the spirit of fear is not of God, but God has given us the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So when God is working in us, fam, we have to be really careful on not believing. We have to be really careful on not believing what the word of God says about us and for us. And when I look at Numbers 14:3-4, what I clearly hear the Israelites saying is they need a plan B. Even though God has brought them to the land of milk and honey, they're like, let's go all the way back to the land of Egypt where God has delivered us from. So these guys want to actually go back to a place of bondage. These guys actually want to go back to a place of bondage rather than overcome to take hold of the inheritance that God has called them to take hold of. So we have to be careful because when God is calling us to better things, it's not always going to be comfortable and easy, and it's going to be real kind of appetizing for us to say, you know what, God, you want to call me to this promotion, but I don't feel equipped, so I'm going to stay at the position that I am in. God, you've called me to continue to treat my spouse in a way that's different than I have historically, but I'm not really seeing any fruit from treating them with such honor. I'm going to go back to nagging them because that's probably going to bear the fruit that I want. God, you've called me to let go of relationships that have ungodly soul ties, but I'm going to have to just keep the door open just in case my marriage doesn't work out the way that you say it will. We have to be really careful with keeping our foot open, our foot in the doorway, to keep the door open for plan B options because we don't believe what God says about us. Because what can happen is exactly what happened to the Israelites. What God called basically was like, how long am I going to let these people have contempt for me? How long am I going to let their unbelief, just continue to dwell? And what God did was basically told this particular generation, it will not be you who inherits the land of milk and honey, but it'll be your generation to come, and close off Canaan, the land of milk and honey, the inheritance from this generation. So we want to be really careful, guys, about the plan B. God should be our plan A, B, and C. But it could get scary. It could get scary when God is calling us to something different and something bigger, because the familiar seems so comfortable, but the familiar can be bondage. Know the difference. And a second thing that I heard when I saw Numbers 14:3 and 4, and I have to be careful here because I feel like there was so much stirred up in my spirit about this passage. I have to be careful not to overshare. But the second thing I heard is when they said we should choose a leader and go back. We're going to follow somebody. So it's up to us if we're going to follow the word and the will of God, or if we're going to fall back and follow the will and word of the land, right? The enemy. So do we want to continue to pursue the things of God that God has called us to pursue, or do we want to fall back into bondage just because it's comfortable? Don't fall back into bondage, fam. There's nothing good in comfort. Come on out of that thing and grow into the men and women God has called us to be. And one of the things that we really want to, kind of take keen to is what is causing our unbelief. Because a lot of times I find in my life, the reasons that I failed, that I believe in God, but, God still helped me in my unbelief. That I don't believe in some areas is due to how the world has historically treated me. Be it how I was, how I came up as a child and people weren't always there for me the way I wanted them to be there for me. So it causes me to have a lack of trust, a lack of belief. Be it I had to take care of other people and other things. So I find it difficult to believe that somebody or something can take care of me. Those types of thoughts that really were embedded in me as a child tend to come up when it's time for me to fully believe in the word of God and what God has for me. So we want to be honest with ourselves, fam. When God is calling us for something, there's some things that may need to be uprooted that were put down on us as children. And if those thoughts, those beliefs, that historical programming is coming against the word of God, then God is with us to be able to come against those things. They do not get to win. So this message was really about just trying to rein it in here. There's so much in my spirit about this. This message is really about our unbelief and being careful on the things that our unbelief can rob us of. God brought the Israelites to the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, but their unbelief caused them not to be able to enter. Do not let our unbelief and what the things that God is calling us to do stop us from being able to take hold of those very things. If God has called you for promotion, if God is, hey, destiny, if God has called you for restoration in your family, if God has called you for restoration of your community, don't be afraid of those things that are in front of you and allow those things to stop you from moving forward. They may seem like giants, fam. They may seem like the spies in Numbers, right? In the book of Numbers, like they saw. They may seem like these things are unsurmountable or that we're not able to overcome them. But with the Spirit of God and with God with us, there's nothing that we can't tackle if it is the will of God. So, fam, just a word on being careful on not believing. Not believing caused the Israelites a whole lot. Not believing in God's capabilities caused these folks a land of milk and honey that had been predestined to them. So, again, be careful on not believing. Be really discerning about where that unbelief is rooted, and come against that thing with the word of God. And don't look for the plan B. Close those doors. You don't need to keep those things open anymore. God has a plan for you, a plan to prosper and not harm you, a plan for future and a hope. So close those doors and leave them closed, fam. That was Delilah from Delilah's Downloads, saying what needs to be said. So until next time, fam, I love you guys, bidding you guys an aloha from the lovely land of Oahu. And until next time, I love you guys. Take care. Don't let your unbelief overcome you.